Today's episode is all about reverse dieting. What is a reverse diet? Do you need to do a reverse diet? Who is a reverse diet for? We are going to come to you with all of the facts if you are somebody that is potentially in a deficit phase right now and you're going, I've reached my goal. What do I do on the other side of this? At the end of this episode, you are going to know exactly what you need to implement.
Perfect. Because there's so many little buzzwords in the industry, reverse diet and so on. And I think that it's good to actually explain what it is, because sometimes you hear things and you're like, oh, I need to do that. But I don't think necessarily everybody has to, because for some people it's just overcomplicating things. So when we think about who it is for someone who has been in a deficit and they're wanting to maintain a similar level of leanness without jumping straight back up to prior calories, someone who's wanting some more structure with increasing their calories, like maybe the idea of being in a deficit and then not tracking, because we don't really want to do that either, is overwhelming. So it's just giving more structure and strategy to increasing your calories up to maintenance.
Yeah. Do I think that everybody needs to do a reverse diet? No. I think that this is going to be individual specific and also goal specific as well. So let's just say you have successfully completed a deficit and you've lost, say, 5 kilos over the last 8 to 10 weeks. You're feeling really, really happy with your results, but you know that your main focus now is to start growing your glutes, building a little bit more lean muscle mass, lifting heavier in the gym. Do I think that doing a reverse diet is probably going to be the most optimal thing to do? Not necessarily. If you're not too worried about putting on maybe a little bit of body fat after completing your deficit so you can go into that surplus or quote unquote bulk phase, I would simply go straight back up to your new prescribed maintenance. Now, when I say new prescribed maintenance, it's very, very important. If you are somebody who has lost 5, 10, etc. kilos, your maintenance that you originally started on is going to be different. So it is very important that you are re-prescribing, recalculating what your new maintenance phase will be. And I would simply, if my goal was I've lost the weight, I've got the goal that I want, now I know that I want to get stronger and focus on building more muscle mass, I would just go straight from my deficit calories to my new prescribed maintenance.
And on the flip side, if I was someone who had lost 10 kilos, I've been tracking meticulously, I'm kind of very tick the boxes kind of person, and I want more structure, increasing my calories. Maybe you've never built your calories up super high before, but that's the overarching goal, having a bit more structure around that. And that structure could look like increasing your calories by 150 calories per week until you get up to your maintenance. One, that will hypothetically be keeping you in a deficit. Say if you wanted to lose a little bit more, it's going to allow you to potentially do that. And 2, it just gives you a structure to building that up, which some people thrive with.
I also think sometimes actually doing a reverse diet, what Gemma just said, can be really good when we look at it from a lens of appetite. So a lot of the time when you spend a prolonged period of time in a deficit, and it doesn't even need to be super low calories. You guys know that we're not about that life around here. If you're on this podcast to get told to eat 1,000 calories, on your bike, Dal, off to another podcast, because it's not happening around here, all right? We are well-fueled and well-fed humans, always. But just say you're eating, say, 1,700 calories and your normal maintenance is 2,500. So in your deficit phase, you've slowly chipped away at a conservative deficit, that 10 to 15% drop every couple of weeks, whatever it's working out for you. And now you're used to eating 1,700 calories, for example, and then your new maintenance, say, is 2,200, that actually might be quite a big jump for you in terms of feeling full and having, a low level of appetite. So sometimes actually doing a reverse diet, if you are, you don't really care about the body fat, it actually can be really beneficial to help increase your appetite again. So you're not feeling like you're force feeding yourself or you're really full with every single meal. And then that eating side of it becomes a little bit more of a chore and it takes up too much brain space.
Yeah. I also would say that with someone who is building up their calories and they don't know how to actually maintain their weight. Maybe this is the first time you've successfully done a deficit and now there's a little bit of I don't want to say fear because that's pretty dramatic, but just what do I do now? I think that learning in a strategic way to prioritize protein, to eat more food, to not go from strict tracking to kind of not knowing what to do, having some guiding principles of that while building up your calories in a way that feels good for you because it's gradual can also be good from that point of view because you're kind of learning more food, building up to maintenance and getting used to what that actually looks like so you can maintain the results.
Yeah. I also as well, like one more thing that I want to add is around the habit. So a lot of the time when people go into a deficit, they are building new habits. They're building a new lifestyle. And like the way that we coach, it's like we're not just putting you into a deficit because you want to lose weight. You earn, I say in quotations, a deficit once you can be consistent and you can build new habits and change your lifestyle, because otherwise what's the fucking point of just dropping your calories lower and lower? You're not going to get anywhere if you're not ticking all of the other boxes that look like stress management, sleep, water intake, daily step goal, hitting your training sessions. You guys know that. We've spoken about it before. But I think when it comes to a reverse diet, sometimes it's actually helpful to maintain those habits and make sure that you're not just going from, okay, cool, I've learned these new habits in a 10-week phase, and 10 weeks, like just say this is someone who's never done a deficit before. That 10-week period is not a long time in the grand scheme of your whole life that you've built all of these other poor or shitty habits, right? So you spent 10 weeks, you feel like you're nailing it. Then the deficit ends and then you're like, well, what now? And sometimes it actually can be more detrimental because you go straight back to your old patterns, habits, and behaviors, which maybe is eating like an asshole. It maybe is over-consuming. It maybe is drinking a lot of alcohol. It maybe is not sleeping 8 hours. And we just completely reverse straight back to what we were originally doing. So I actually think like if you've ever, for example, hired a coach before, a personal trainer or an online coach, and you have had that experience where you've gone from, you've lost the 10 kilos and then you decide to stop coaching because you're like, well, I got my result, and then you gain the 10 kilos back, you probably actually would have benefited from doing a reverse diet and sticking with that coach for a little bit longer. A lot of people, and we've spoken to this before on the podcast, shiny object. Quickest, fastest result. I don't care how the fuck I'm going to do it. I'm going to get there. I'm going to lose the 10 kilos. But what's next? Like you're going to get to a point in your journey where you're sick of yo-yoing back and forth. You're sick of losing the 10 kilos, putting it back on, losing the 10 kilos, putting it back on, whatever the goal is. So maybe it's actually like, okay, if I do seek external support like a coach to do a deficit phase, I actually need to maybe commit to the reverse. It's about calling yourself out in your shit, right? Like if you know that those habits, patterns, and behaviors are the thing that's going to keep fucking you every single time, maybe it's like, oh, well, I actually need to stay on with my coach for another 12 weeks and learn how to do this properly so I don't end up exactly where I was to begin with.
Yep. And I kind of want to be really clear on who a reverse diet is for, as in we've already said it, but let's summarize, and who it is not for. So if I think about the kind of client that a reverse diet would be for, would be someone who building up their maintenance is quite a long way away. I'm thinking of a client that's quite tall that I have of mine who needs to eat a lot of food to be able to maintain her weight.
Well, me, I would say for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this type of client who already is eating a pretty decent amount of food, even in a deficit, having this gradual increase makes one digestion, it's not such a like, bam, I'm now eating an extra 900 calories kind of thing.
And then I can't poop.
Exactly. So that gradual increase for that type of client, or maybe a client who has been in a deficit for a decent amount of time and just the adjustment to this new phase is something that we want to do in a more strategic approach because they might feel a bit nervous about it because they're like, oh, I don't want to lose my results. That would be suited to that kind of person. But someone who, again, maybe they are really fatigued from dieting and they just want more food and they're happy with gaining a bit of weight because they want to do that, then they don't need to be in a deficit for any longer, because at the end of the day, a reverse diet is still a deficit because we're not at maintenance yet. For someone who wants to build and their priority is building and growing, putting them in this phase where they're extending this period is not going to be beneficial for them. So that's who it's for and that is who it's not. So see what category you fall into. It is a strategy that can be really helpful, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah. And I also think take time to align your goals. So like once you've hit your goal of, say, the weight loss, the deficit's complete, you've hit that goal. Ask yourself, okay, what's my next goal? What do I want to do? What's important to me right now? I've got the dream body. I've built the X, Y, and Z. What is my next goal? A lot of people will do a diet phase and that's the main goal, but then they get very lost in the process of what I do next. And that's when you usually see that like weight coming back on and off, right? or they just like don't know really what to do. It's like actually sit down and go, okay, well, what do I want to focus on for the next, 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 8 weeks, and having something to actually work towards, I feel like is very, very helpful. And then you can make the decision from there. Okay, does this require a reverse deficit? Or is my goal actually to just like build some more muscle mass and I feel really good with just going straight back up to my new prescribed maintenance and fucking sending it my lifts in the gym?
Yeah. I think that is so important because when we tunnel vision to a fat loss goal, or maybe we get really caught up on the leanness side of things, and that can't go forever. Like you can't be dieting forever. You don't want to be stuck in this cycle forever. So reassessing what you actually want. How do you want to feel? And having new goals. And a lot of the time that's going to be a performance-based goal. Maybe it's now you want to do chin-ups. Maybe it's now you want to be able to, leg press 200 kilos, whatever it is. But I think that for the longevity side of things with health and fitness, it's really important that you audit what you're doing at the moment every once in a while. Is that in alignment with what feels really good? Are we on track for what I want to be doing long term? Because if you can kind of set some fresh goals and have a positive association with what you're doing, it won't be a chore. It'll be, this is something that's really benefiting my life. I'm feeling really good. I'm performing really well because, again, we don't want to be stuck in, I just have more weight to lose. I just need to get leaner, because that's not very fun long term.
No, it's not fun at all.
No.
And also as well, like, let's just talk from a mindset perspective really quickly. If you are somebody who has achieved a fat loss goal and you're really happy with your physique, the way that you look, whatever the goal was to begin with, right? Do not freak out that you are going to get quote unquote fat by going back to maintenance. Yeah. I think this is a really big issue for people, and why they actually stay inside a deficit phase way longer than they need to be is because they are so terrified that they're going to put on weight and they're going to be quote unquote fat at the end of it. But the reality is, if you've done a successful deficit, that means that you have changed your lifestyle habits. You have focused on your movement, you've prioritized your rest, you've, managed your stress, hopefully, you're drinking enough water, you're staying nice and hydrated, you're ticking all your training sessions. All you need to do is maintain those lifestyle factors. And this is why we bang on about the fact that health and fitness does not need to be your whole life. It needs to fit into your lifestyle. It needs to be something that you can hand on heart commit to for the rest of your life, because your health is the one thing that you have and that you can maintain and should be a number one priority for you. So if you're worried about, but what if I go back to maintenance and like I put on all this weight and I gain all this body fat and I don't like the way that I look, it's like that's probably not going to happen if you keep up the lifestyle habits, the good lifestyle habits that you've worked so hard to build over that deficit period. And I think a lot of people get into that at the end of the deficit. They just go, well, fuck it. I'm done with the deficit. Fuck the gym. Fuck this. I'm bored. I don't want to go to the gym anymore. So boring. It's too hard. It's like, if you're committing to training, one, we already know the benefits of weight training. Don't even fight me on this. I speak about it every episode, I swear. But like, you should be being able to maintain that and commit to that forever. So coming out of the deficit, it shouldn't be an issue because you're still doing all of that stuff. It's not just like you go, okay, I want to lose weight and that's the only time I'm prioritizing my health. Okay, what about the next 40 years?
And that's
what are you going to do?
I was going to say, sorry, I should have done the hand raise.
That's
sorry,
fine.
brother. I was going to say, I think it's important. That's why we need to track more than just weight loss and the leanness and the fat loss side of things. Because if you just take 2 seconds to track some of those things like your mood and your energy and
the way you feel
and how you're showing up in the world, it's not going to take very long to build a really solid case as to why you should continue daily movement, maybe your daily walk, your strength training. Like if you take 5 minutes to write down, or at least have that benchmark of where was I before I started this and where am I now? Why would you want to stop that? You shouldn't, because it has to be something that is benefiting every other aspect of your life. And sometimes it takes a second to zoom out to realize that. But another point would just be to make sure you're tracking things other than just scale weight, because that's a very small part of it.
And I'm going to argue something for a second.
I'm shocked.
Buckle in, boys. We're going on a wild ride. If you find health and fitness really hard, like it's a really hard part of your life, you are either doing it way too extremely or you haven't been able to fit it into your lifestyle. You've made it your whole life, aka it's too extreme. When you commit to health and fitness, and this is what everybody does wrong, everyone in the world, I'm saying it now, everyone does it wrong, is they do the extreme of, I just want to lose 10 kilos, I'll do absolutely anything to get there, and then as soon as it finishes, they just stop. It's like, well, you fucked it. You're never going to have a successful, relationship with your body or whatever the thing is, because you're not looking at it as a lifestyle change overall. And I think that's really the key missing part is like people go into it, they just hyperfixate on the result. They hyperfixate on getting the smallest they can, the leanest they can. And it's like, what about your health? Like, what if you just looked at, okay, actually, I'm going to commit to moving my body every single day in some way, shape or form. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to train 2 times a week. I'm going to make better food choices and prioritize eating protein forever. Forever. For the next 60 years, for the next 80 years, instead of just, I'm only going to do this for the next 10 weeks. That's going to be a huge mindset change for you, and you will be able to maintain your results, build the body of your dreams, but also prevent injury, hopefully any diseases and any illnesses long term.
And on that note, thank you guys so much for listening. We love and appreciate you. If you are watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and comment. And if you're listening to us in your ears, we appreciate you. Leave us a 5-star rating and we will see you next week.
Love you. Bye.